about how I healed my endometriosis. And this is a story that I've been meaning to share here for a while and in the dance context, and it's time to do it. I actually already have a video talking about my endometriosis journey, more just in general, on my other channel. I'll link that video in the description in case you would like to know the fuller story, because I want to link this a little bit more to dance today. But basically, I have suffered since I was 16 with endometriosis. So this is where some of the lining of the womb grows outside of the womb and causes like excruciatingly painful periods. I had lots of other negative symptoms as well. It was to a level of pain that I couldn't even bear. It meant that for 2, sometimes 3 days of the month, I couldn't do anything, especially the first day. Like, it was even just surviving in bed, lying down, was really difficult. And this was something that I just thought for the longest time, like, oh, this is just my body, this is just what I have to put up with. And when I started to realize that I had the power to actually start healing this, and of course everyone's journey in this is going to be very different, so let me just start by saying, like, this is my personal particular journey. Everybody is going to have their own way of healing and using different methods to do that. In my case, I did it holistically. That was the way I chose to do it. That was the way I wanted to do it. It probably took longer than if I had potentially had some medical intervention. I don't know, because there was no way to do that control trial. Like, either I did or I didn't. In my case, I didn't. And I am at a point now where I have normal periods, and I just couldn't ever imagine it. I just couldn't imagine for like all of my adult life that I'd ever get to that point. So I'm 34 now, and I came off the pill when I was around 24, I think, or maybe 23. Yeah, probably 23. So I had like a full 10 years off the pill, and I started to heal this probably about around 4 years ago. I actually was aware that it was possible, and I started making some very different decisions in my life and in my dancing, which has led me here. And I feel like I need to talk about this because there are so many women, some really high profile dancers as well, have come out saying also that they have suffered with endometriosis, Claudia Dean being one of them, who recently has shared part of her journey. And so again, this video is going to be from my perspective, my personal story, my opinions. This is not a scientific information video. This is me telling my story and what I've done and what I believe helped, and how it has been affected by my dance and how it affects my dance now. So it's really interesting. Carla is really wanting some attention right now. I've just finished recording a podcast, so she's like, pay attention to me. I don't even know like where to take this back to. Like I said, I'm not going to tell the full story. You can watch that in the other video. But I, at the age of, I guess as a teenager when I was dancing, I learned how to engage my abdominals, obviously, as we all do when we are doing that, any kind of dance that requires that kind of posture. And basically, I then also learned how to not really ever let them go. So I got attached to the way that my body looked when I was constantly tensing. And that's how I basically just went around for the rest of my adult years until around, again, like 3 or 4 years ago. And on top of that, so there was this constant tensing, right, of my abdomen. And on top of that, I also had this sensation that being a woman was a disadvantage in the world. I had a feeling that like it was unfair that I had to have periods, and especially as a dancer I felt like, well, this is really inconvenient, how unfair that the male dancers can dance at the same level you know, every day of the month, and I have to go through this. And so I also started to channel like a lot of masculine energy, and I know that that's not a scientific thing at all actually, but hopefully some of you can understand where I'm coming from with this. What I mean by that was I wanted everything to kind of be under control. I wanted to exert energy and have like very focused goals and always be pushing forward. And again, like that wasn't just a mental thing. That I was embodying that too. So I was rigid, I was tensing, I was always kind of worried or at least aware of what I looked like to other people, and I wasn't connected to how I actually felt. So it was more important. And you know, if you think about in the dance world as well, like in training, what do you hear more? That it's more important what your movement looks like, or it's more important what your movement feels like. I mean, we all know that it's about what your movement looks like in terms of the way that most training is done in most dance styles in the West. And so there was other things that also happened, like personal things in my life as a teenager that were really difficult and caused me to kind of be defensive and hard, and I would even say to a point, like, not necessarily aggressive, but I certainly wasn't, like, I didn't allow things to pass. Like, I would very much be I guess like fighting, feeling like I was always kind of like fighting for myself, fighting for my place, fighting to prove myself, fighting to be worthy, and to so that people would view me in the way that I wanted them to view me. And that is extremely tiring and actually not healthy. And so what happened basically was, like, when I was 16, I had a really awful period, like terrible pain. I had to go home from school, and then basically I went on the pill, and the pill masks whatever's going on, right? It doesn't cure anything. And so I basically masked my endometriosis for the next 16 to 23, like 7-8 years. And that's when I was studying at uni and things. And so it also to me was like, oh, this is great because now I can dance all the time. And so that also felt like a win in my head, even though I was sacrificing my health. So anyone who's watched any of my recent videos will know that my big mission in the world is that health goes before dance, and that by being really healthy, that's actually going to have a positive effect on your dancing anyway, but that health must come first. And well, here you go. I'm telling you, a big part of this story is why that mission is so dear to my heart and so important to me, because I don't want other human beings to sacrifice their health for dance, because it's not necessary. So anyway, here's part of this story. So anyway, all of these things I believe were playing into my endometriosis. I believe it was a combination of all of the tension that I literally held around my womb space, the fact that I didn't really like being a woman and that I resented my periods, that I felt like it was an advantage to be a man, that I also bought into the idea of constant productivity and constant effort and output. And the problem is that women aren't men. And when I say that it's the problem, like, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's actually wonderful to be a woman. And when I finally really genuinely understood and embodied and knew that as an embodied truth that was when I was really able to start healing it. There were other factors as well, like my diet. So for example, when I finally realized that gluten wasn't sitting well with my gut, and then actually that anything that's going on with your gut is very likely to be going on with your womb as well, that there's a lot of relatedness there. When I cut gluten out, things started to get better as well. So there were lots of parts to my healing journey, and diet was one of them. I also realized I was probably deficient in some minerals and vitamins, because of, at one point I went vegan and I didn't replace some things that I should have replaced. So for example, I stopped eating cheese, but I didn't replace it with something else that had probiotics in it. And so this is not me saying that you can't be healthy as a vegan, you can, but you need to be very aware of taking care of your gut and replacing anything that you take out with something that has the same properties, okay? I didn't do that actually. I tried to, I was looking at my macros, okay? Like protein and but I wasn't looking at things like probiotics and like other smaller micronutrient details, which is really important. And I'm not vegan anymore, I'm plant-based. I do eat mainly vegan food, but I have more of a balance now. I still don't eat meat, like I don't eat pigs and cows and things. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. The thing that I want to say is that when I started listening to my body and actually understanding how I felt after I'd eaten a certain food, and I kind of kept a food diary, that made a really big difference. But I had to start to tune in to actually how I was feeling. And in order to do that, I had to release the tension in my abdominals, because what I realized was that I hadn't ever paid attention to my digestion and how things felt in this section of my body, because there was always a low level of discomfort there because I was constantly tensing. So I had really no idea what was the difference between like no pain and softness and calm versus like being bloated. So like my body couldn't even really it could get bloated, but because I was always holding it in, I couldn't even really see as much what those differences are. So anyway, I had to come into being embodied. I had to fully focus on what is my body telling me? What can I learn from my body? How can I listen to this? How can I find other ways to nourish myself and to listen to myself? So there was all of that part as well. There's many parts of this story, as you can hear. I have so much cat hair on my face right now. It's so itchy. The cats are molting like crazy. You can also see that I'm very sweaty because it is 40 degrees in Madrid today. Anyway, coming back to this idea of masculinity. If you have a body that is female, and I know that itself is a controversial thing to say at the moment, but in general, you know what I mean. And if you're in the interim, then you're going to have to get curious and discover what these things mean for you. But for those of us who are female, in a female body, if you still have this idea that it would be better to be a man because then you could dance the same every single day of the month, have the same amount of energy, have exactly the same hormones going through the same circadian rhythm, so that 24-hour cycle, and you don't honor the fact that you menstruate, you don't honor the fact that you have a monthly cycle, you don't honor the fact that women were never supposed to be doing exactly the same types of tasks as men. Women were never supposed to be doing the same amount of physical labor as men. And that doesn't mean that we can't do it. We obviously can. But when I started to actually surrender to the actual body that I have, my female body, and honor my cycles and listen to my body, I then was able to start healing this. And a lot of the things that I had to do, and lots of people won't need to do this, because if you haven't had a chronic health condition, you won't need to implement lots of the things that I have. Although I would argue that many chronic health conditions, whether it's, you know, migraines, whether it's stomach issues, whether it's whatever it is, in my case it was endometriosis, but that with the right tools, and some of those tools, like I said, might be medical tools, they might be acupuncture, they might be other things. With those tools, and the main difference being able to organize your own lifestyle. Create a lifestyle that is aligned with what your body actually needs. And so my body not only needed to live in a way that aligned with being female and having the body that I have, but I also needed to give my body space to heal. And what did that mean? That meant I needed to rest. I needed to rest physically and I needed to rest mentally. I needed to surrender. I needed to soften my muscles. I needed to soften my mind. I needed to soften the control that I was trying to exert over my own life. And guess what? When that happens and there's more space in the womb, why would the lining of my womb need to grow in other places when it has enough space there, when I'm allowing it to be there, when I'm honoring my monthly cycle? And so again, having the opportunity to create a lifestyle that allowed me to heal is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about my academy. So Aligned Dance Teacher Academy is one of the ways that I'm bringing this mission into the world, and simultaneously it's the way that I talk about dance for adult dancers. Both of these things are related to this in the way that I would love people to put their health first. Putting your health first in the dance studio looks a little bit different to putting your health first as a dance teacher and as a dance business owner potentially. But all of these things are not only doable, they can be highly successful and create well-being in our lives. And if we would like to dance for a long time because it's genuinely something that we love doing, there's nothing more important than your health. I mean, what is more important than health in the end? This is the question that I ask myself now. And in previous years, I've had many different answers to that. Like, oh, it's more important to be successful right now, or it's more important to dance this performance right now, or it's more important to get this choreography finished right now, or it's more important to go out with my friends right now, or it's more important to all these things that I thought were more important than my health. But, you know, I think ultimately to anyone that has suffered with something that's a health issue, that puts things into perspective for you, and you're like, yeah, my quality of life is absolutely dependent on my health, and so I'm not sacrificing it anymore. I won't do it. And we live in a time now where it's absolutely possible to create a healthy lifestyle and have balance with work and have balance with dance, and that balance with your dance will actually make you a better dancer overall. So I have so much spaciousness in my life now. I work many less hours. I have a flexible timetable. I have time to do things that I enjoy. Like I take salsa and bachata classes for me. I have times that I deliberately connect with my body. I check in. I see, am I holding any tension anywhere? Can I release anything? I have a different energy in the studio as a teacher. I have a different energy in my life with the people that I love, with my friends. Everything has changed since I learned how to heal my womb. And I think as a woman, like, there's a connection with our own life force that's from that area of our body, that when we're disconnected to it because we're in the mind all the time, at least I know I was missing out on really important signals and communication from my body. And so this has just been incredibly powerful for me. And I honestly could have never believed that every single month how I used to suffer, and now, you know, to the point of literally vomiting from the pain from the point of being in tears, crying to Jordan, I can't do this, I can't do this. And those are never words that I've ever said in any other context of my life. Like, I always believe there's a way to do something, and I'm pretty good at dealing with pain, as most dancers are, physical pain at least. And now, to every month, it even still keeps getting better. And this is because of 4 years of work that I've done on my mindset, of changing the stories of what it means to be a woman, of changing the stories of the things that I have to do and questioning those, of changing the stories about what life's really about, of changing the stories of how I relate to myself, of changing the stories of my own expectations of who I am and how I should be. And then the embodiment work, which has been absolutely fundamental. Mindset work is not enough, at least it wasn't for me. And having a real connection to my body and using lots of embodiment tools, I mean, like, it's changed my life completely. It changed my life completely. And I'm the healthiest I've ever been at 34, for sure. And not only in my physical health, but my mental health as well, because I have a healthy connection now with my body. And because I have a healthy connection with my body, and because I feel rested and energetic and healthy and vibrant and very much allowing for what's happening around me, at the same time as being able to find like inner peace, all my relationships have gotten stronger and also softer. And that's a good thing. By softer, I mean there's not that kind of tension, and I don't need to like be controlling anyone or anyone's decisions or having influence over anyone. There's like an allowing that happens, and all of this has just made my life so peaceful and joyful. And it does feel weird saying that and talking about it, and I know that, you know, everyone might not like to particularly hear me saying like how much I love my life, because I say it quite a lot now, because I'm just very aware that I really do, and I'm very, very lucky. But what's also been very important to me is that I know that there's nothing special about me, in the way that, yeah, of course I'm unique, of course I'm different, but that if I've been able to do this, other people can do this. And again, it won't necessarily be the same tools, it won't be the same journey, of course it won't, but I know that I have lots of things to offer people, both in the dance studio, but also via coaching. And it's really my great privilege to work with incredible human beings who are also dance teachers, and to help guide them through this process of creating a healthier life for themselves, and leading with health, and seeing all of their students as whole human beings, and creating lives that they love, so that they can serve people even better, so that they can create even more enjoyable dance experiences, so that they can create even more success in their lives in whatever way they define success. And so, yeah, this was the story that I wanted to tell today, because it took me a very long time to even talk about this in public. It was only last year, I think, that I ever even mentioned it in public, that I've struggled with that for my whole, you know, since I went through puberty all the way up until I was, 32, I guess. I'm 34 now, I'm nearly 35. And it's still an ongoing healing process, but like I said, like, my periods are normal now. A little bit of discomfort and, you know, feeling tired, that kind of thing. But I allow for that now. I know I don't plan to do lots of things the week I have my period. And that's another great thing about owning my own business. Like, I deliberately have more time to rest. I don't book in podcasts on those days. I don't, I don't even need to teach usually, because of how it falls in the days on those days. And I rest, and I lean into that rest, and I enjoy that rest, and I allow myself to feel the pleasure of resting. And that in itself is so healing. And obviously my body must at some point have gotten the message that, oh, Natalie's actually going to rest now. We don't need to keep screaming pain, pain, pain at her. She's learnt that she needs to rest more during this time of the month. So Anyway, this has been a very chatty video. I'm sorry if it hasn't been particularly clear or articulate. I just wanted to come on and kind of tell the story, and invite you to take a moment to really consider, like, am I physically healthy? Am I mentally healthy? Do I feel that inner sense of calm and peace? And when I stop, is my body not in pain? And just ask yourself, well, is that something that I would like to prioritize if any of those answers are no? And sometimes the pain, we're so used to it that we even stop feeling it when it's chronic. But that doesn't mean that it's not there and that we can't do anything about it. And like I said, there are many, many different tools. This is not to say that do it my way, not at all. But I can share lots of the tools that I've used, and also help you to see where those stories are that you're telling yourself that actually aren't true. It's so hard to see them for ourselves because we've been surrounded by them. The stories that we have about what it means to be a woman are the same stories as the ones usually that our parents have and our friends have and our society has and the films have and the magazines have usually. Not always, but there's usually remnants of that there. And same thing about what it means to be a dancer and what it means to be a teacher and what it means to be a wife and what it means to be a mother and all of these things. And so one of the powerful things about coaching is that as a coach, I get to help you to find which of those stories aren't serving you anymore and which ones you would like to shift, and then how to embody that, again, through different tools. And then, of course, there's the strategy part. And I always say the strategy part's the easiest bit to get people to kind of like pay attention to and be like, oh yeah, I want to know the how. I want to know the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to get from here to here. For sure, like I do all of that as well. We do a lot of that in the academy. But if you are a dance teacher, if you are an aspiring dance teacher, if you're a part-time dance teacher, all of you are welcome into the academy to set up a life that is healthy for you, healthy for your students, healthy for the other people that are in your life, and know that from that place of health, you get to build whatever you want. Health doesn't come second. Health comes first. And so if you would like more info, there's various ways you can do that. You can go to the website, etc. But it's more fun if we get to chat if you want. So you can drop me a message. I'll leave some links in the description here. And yeah, I haven't been my usual like high energy self right now, but this topic is one that every time I talk about it, I remind myself how I need to soften and be more allowing, and I don't have to be that high. Like, both of those Natalies exist and they're both absolutely real and authentic and genuine, but there's moments for both of her to be around. Okay guys, Academy doors will be opening the week before July, and then we'll be starting in July. It's a 6-month coaching program. I'm so bad at doing these. I need to like get better, because I'm always like, when it gets to the part where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll tell you about this, and then I'm just saying random stuff. Anyway, I'm also working on that. Saludos, muchas gracias. Okay guys, have a lovely day, evening, night, and I will see you tomorrow for a podcast clip. Actually, there's a very fun podcast episode coming tomorrow, guys, as you know, every Friday. Bye everyone.